You're listening to Dude Podcast with JC and Will. Put some pep in that step. Enjoy the show.
Hello, I'm Will.
And I'm Jordan, and you're watching Dude Podcast.
Sure are, and you notice there is the absence. We're missing the presence of old Crum,
Yeah.
but maybe that's his loss is our gain because our old pal Jordan Hill is joining us this week.
What's up?
Yeah, so how's it going? Glad you could join us.
Thanks, man. It's going pretty well. Just pushing through the school year, pushing through the year.
That's right. Remind me what grade that you're teaching this year.
So it depends on the subject. I'm teaching two subjects. I'm teaching 7th grade science, which is exhausting, but also pretty fun. I got to be honest. It's a lot of cool
I
subjects.
would think 7th grade would be kind of a fun age, actually.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah.
It's one of those things where at this point in my life, I've really learned to accept them for who they are, in the hot mess that they are, but also they're fun human beings. I will be real.
Yeah.
So So I teach 7th grade science, and then I teach art now. I got to teach art. Some
Oh,
people,
really?
yeah. I've taken on some art classes at my school, and that is 6th through 8th.
How does that work? Because you don't teach one specific grade or one specific subject. So is that just a nightmare for scheduling? Like, do you fill up each hour of the day or?
Yeah, it is a bit crazy. I will admit that. But I do it for obviously just because I get to teach art and because the school needs it. But I do 2 hours. So we have what's called block scheduling, and it's a lot like college. And so on Mondays and Wednesdays, it's A day. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's B day. And then Friday rotates between A and B. On A days, it's 2 classes of science, and then I run all the way out to my art studio in between classes, in between all the middle schoolers taking their time to get to class. And I teach art, and that's the end of my day because our classes are also an hour and a half long. Then on Tuesdays, it's hour and a half of science or 1 block of science, run down for 1 block of art, run up for 1 more block of science. So,
I'm already tired. I'm gonna go take a nap after that.
yeah, at the end of the day, I tend to sit in my classroom and do the whole,
Yeah.
but it's I love it.
So here's where my headspace goes when you talk about this. You teach science, which is a knowledge thing. You got to pour knowledge into their heads, right? And there's just a lot of sitting down and learning, right? I imagine. Whereas art is a physical thing. You have to, but they have to use instruments, right? What's more stressful, trying to put the knowledge in the heads of kids or dealing with kids and sharp objects or messy objects?
The science by far. I've done science for 9 years now.
Wow.
The art aspect is new to me, but it's also obviously a breeze. I mean, I went to college for art. So, but it's the teaching of science where, here's facts. You remember the facts. Like you could say, hey, do you remember what the 3 states of matter are? And they're just like, boom, boom, boom. And like, good, you memorized that. All right, so now what happens, getting them to apply it. You're like, what happens if I apply heat to that solid? What's going to happen? They're like, why are you doing this to me, Mr. Hill? And I'm just like, oh, I just thought you'd figure this. Okay, let's talk through. Like it's the critical thinking, which let's be real, that's a problem in a lot of places. But critical thinking is a challenge for middle schoolers, especially. I think people got to realize I'm dealing with puberty brain on top of it, so it's
Right.
and
Yeah.
and at this point, their brain, if they've hit puberty, it is so this is a poor description of it, but also a really good way to explain it. It's like their brain is restructuring. It's almost like a cocoon. When a caterpillar puts itself in a chrysalis or whatever, it completely like dissolves and like turns into all this new stuff. That's their brain. Their brain is soup. It's a hot mess. I'm constantly having to help them put it back together and pick it up off the floor. Like it's all good, but it's like that's seventh graders for you. So
Do you remember much about puberty, by the way? Like, I think about puberty, and I feel like throughout my time of puberty, there's a lot of things that happened that I was too afraid to tell anyone about, so I just buried it deep, deep down and never told anyone about. It's like, why do I have lumps in my nipples?
the lumpy nipples is so weird. That one I still to this day, and it's so weird being a middle school teacher too, because you'll be sitting there and like scanning the room, making sure people are doing their thing, and you just see this boy over there like, oh,
It's, I know I've told this story on the podcast before, but I remember experiencing these like little knots on my nipples, and I remember being mortified because I had been recently eating my mom's Special K made for women, and I thought like, oh no, I'm growing boobs. I'm never eating that cereal again.
oh my god.
And I think even to this day, as an adult, I'll still stay away from it just in case. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I know it's not real, but
You just don't want to mess with it.
let's just be safe.
Just in case. Just in case. No, like that's a real thing though, and it's like you're right. A lot of people, we hide so much from our puberty because we're just mortified that it happened. Because it's just a normal thing usually, or just something that we deal with during puberty. But yeah, it is not something. I think we naturally push it out of our minds. I think that's why we don't. It's very traumatic. We don't want to relive that. So
No, and you just hair growing in places that you. Like, I'm not even talking about pubic. Like, like in
everywhere,
bizarre, your
yeah.
back and your eyebrows and like your,
You get one that you're just like, what?
yeah.
Why is that growing there? Why did you? There's none others there. That's it. Okay. No,
And
but
like I said, like I had a puddle of water in my underwear. Like I remember there was like a 1 week where I feel like I was just sweating in my pants constantly. I'm like, what is happening to me? What? I'm not even like running around. Why am I sweating? Like, why is my crotch so sweaty?
he's got that swamp crotch. It's that puberty swamp crotch.
Classic symptoms of puberty.
Oh, I never got that one though. That's what I'm confused about.
That's what I'm saying. Like I feel like weird things would happen. You're just like, I'm never telling anyone about this.
It is a very interesting time of our lives, and it's interesting getting to experience it again as a teacher.
I can't imagine being a teacher is good for people with like highly sensitive like sensory issues. Because I mean, being a parent, it can be debilitating.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that I think I will say teach. So as being I'm not neurodivergent in the aspect of autism, but I obviously have the ADHD. And I remember over the years, there's been these little moments where I've been recognizing like, oh, that's a sensory thing. Like that's why that drives me crazy. And I will say that one of my big things is uh, volume levels, because if I'm just letting them have a blast and yell all day long, by the end of the day, I feel like I'm walking around just like,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
there have been times where uh, people have walked into my room after school and I'm just sitting there like this. And
Mr. Hill's having a breakdown.
and uh, uh, they like slowly walk in. They're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "I think I'm a little overstimulated right now. I'm just trying to take a moment, but yeah, we're good."
I couldn't do it. God bless teachers, man.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I want to talk about maybe something as a science teacher you can help me with.
Okay.
I realized like 2 days ago, I was looking at a barcode, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a series of lines and maybe a little bit of numbers, right? And it takes specific inventory. Shouldn't we be more mystified about barcodes? How does that work? How does a computer see these lines and go, "Yep, that's the that's shampoo."
What exactly is it that you're confused about regarding the barcode?
We marvel at things like mountains and like oceans, but how do you not see a barcode and go, "Wow, somebody came up with this insane idea for inventory"? Somebody thought, how do we keep inventory of all these products in the store? Well, let's make a series of lines and like numbers, and that gives a unique identity.
Yeah, you're getting close. It's giving it a unique identity.
But how?
Well, it's almost like a from production to sale type thing. They don't put the barcodes on at the store necessarily unless they're putting on their own price tags. But it's all like designed to kind of track the product until it's finally made its way to its final destination.
Whoa, Hollywood. Hold up. Are you telling me that a barcode, if I took a product out of Target and I took it to Costco and I scanned it, the Costco wouldn't catch it? I thought each barcode was like universal.
So yeah, I guess what you're saying is you could take something from Target if it's sold at Costco and like the exact same product, and you could scan that one there and it would register in Costco's computer as, I believe, like, I'll be honest, this is what I've understood it to be.
That just doesn't make. But here's the thing: if I make again shampoo, and then I'm another place that makes carpets, how am I making sure that I'm making a unique barcode? See, that's what I'm saying. How are we not marveling at this?
I mean, let me see if I can find a barcode really quick.
I, hey, duties, go look at a barcode someday. Yeah, that doesn't make any
So
sense.
this is all number, like the each there's like a whole code right here, and each set of lines is like a different number. And like I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like these first four is one thing, and then this one's one thing, and all of these. So I have a feeling that like some barcodes from the 90s, probably those numbers aren't in use anymore, or they just continuously increase the number. I don't know. That's a wonderful question. We should be yeah, and I'm sure this is engaging our listeners, our duties so well right. Like, yeah, we're just two dads talking about barcodes
It's
in
the
the
same thing with
world.
phone numbers. Like, don't you think about phone numbers? And it's like, a city like Chicago, everyone has a phone number. Probably more often than not, it's an area code that has to do with the city of Chicago, right?
Right, right.
Lots of people in Chicago. How are there unique phone numbers for each person there? How do they run out of phone numbers?
Oh, what's the probability, or how many possibilities of what seven numbers can you have?
Exactly.
I mean, if you think about it, you would start with 1111111.
What's crazy? There are people out there with that number.
Even crazier, would there be somebody out there with 0000000?
And do you think that people, when they say like, "Hey, what's your phone number?" 918-000-0000, and they say, "No, seriously." And you're like, "No, seriously,
No, I'm that
that's
guy.
it."
I'm that guy. They wouldn't. You would always be considered a liar.
And the thing is, like,
Like, no, he's not
I
cool.
want to meet those people. Like, I want to meet that guy. Who's the guy that's like 918-666-6666?
All right, let's call the duties. If you have a unique phone number, please let us know. I'm curious because and that has to be how they make numbers because I remember when like they just go, okay, this person gets this one and the next person gets the next number. Because my mom and I have this phone number. Our cell phone numbers are one number off.
Same with my parents, and same with my wife's Jordan, or my Jordan, her phone number. She has chronological order with her family.
Interesting. I mean, I guess that's how they make them. I guess that's how they make barcodes too.
Hey, speaking of barcodes, I once worked with a guy who had no tattoos except a barcode on the back of his neck.
What was the barcode?
I don't know.
I bet you if you scan it, it says like "gotcha" or something like that.
I mean, I, again, it's unique to a product.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. He wouldn't tell people what it was. He was ashamed of it. Naturally, if you have a barcode on the back of your neck, that's a bad decision right there. And that's the only tattoo he has. I mean, what a bold place to get your first tattoo. And a bold thing to get your first tattoo, right?
Yeah.
He's never going to see it.
He's never going to see. That's one of my rules is like, I'm still not sure if I want a back tattoo simply because I never actually get to see the beauty of it. And imagine having a barcode you don't want and it's stuck somewhere you still can't see it.
Maybe he's thinking like, if I'm standing in line somewhere, it could be a good meet cute. Like somebody's like, what's that tattoo? And he's like,
you want to find out?
You
want to scan and find out?
They go to Target together. He's
like, yeah, let's put me under the price checker. So I don't know if you got any more on what I wanted to. So I heard. How about this? I heard a rumor.
Oh, Daddy likes rumors.
I heard a rumor you guys were talking about my house on the last podcast.
We did. Yes. So we briefly mentioned how your upstairs was kind of like, I refer to it as it's almost like the basement in that 70s show. That was kind of like that for us mainly because your parents were just like, it was almost like they didn't want to go upstairs. They just
they didn't.
had no interest in going up there, which was great for us. It was like, cool.
Like, oh, what can we do?
And you would think like, oh, I bet they did some awful like drugs and alcohol. I mean, maybe to very moderate amounts, but really it was just a bunch of stupidity going on.
Yeah. Just like, let's do the stupid thing. Hey, turn the treadmill at full speed and just jump on it.
Yeah. It was stuff like that.
And then we hear about like from the grade below us, we get to school, they're like, what'd you do this weekend? We got hammered. And we're like, oh, we just fell off of treadmills for 3 hours.
We just did dumb crap on the treadmill. Here's my favorite thing about your upstairs, by the way. I think the first beer I ever had, I was not like a party kid, but the first beer I ever had was 20 years old. It was at your house. I think we had like 2 Modelo's.
I remember this, yeah.
But here's how sad my youth was. We decided, let's have a couple of Modelo's and watch National Treasure with Nicolas Cage.
Okay. I remember this.
Our parents would think that's sad. They're like, that's it?
Like, God, who did we raise? Like, what is it? I'm gonna go ahead. I do remember this night specifically. I did not remember what beers we drank. It was a good night though. I do remember you suggesting National Treasure. It's sitting there for a second, being like, okay, so am I gonna be a nice friend or am I gonna be a friend that like, tells him the truth? And I was like, all right, man, you want to watch National Treasure?
Here's the thing. You know how like when people say, oh, Nickelback sucks. Like, I hate Nickelback. In the back of your head, you're like, they're not my favorite band, but I kind of like some of their stuff. Like, I kind of Silver Side Up was a decent album. That's how I feel about National Treasure. When people are like, "Oh, Nicolas Cage, National Treasure," in the back of my head, I'm like, I kind of like National Treasure.
I mean, I think it's one of those. I honestly feel it's one of those movies from we will say our youth, because it was in our youngerish days, but it was one that came out and it had just enough campiness where you were like, this is almost cringy. But I think
I think I liked it because I was a big fan of Indiana Jones, and I think it has some parallels to
it
it
gave that vibe.
that felt a little nostalgic to me. So yeah, so when I wanted to get crazy, and at this point we were in college, I think it was like, let's get some brewskis and watch National Treasure, and you're like, okay.
Like, okay.
Oh, my wild, wild youth.
So was it just kind of like talking about how it was this safe haven? Because good Lord, was it a safe haven?
Well, here's how it came up, okay? And I actually cut this from that episode because I actually felt bad about this story, but I'll tell it anyways. So Jay, my little brother, was on the podcast, right? And JC had asked me if I had any stories that I regret, or maybe of like tension between Jay and I. And I said the only real time I ever really felt bad as a big brother was at was at your house. For some reason, it was you, me, Michael Merrill, and Jay, which is the weirdest combination of people. But we were upstairs at your house hanging out. Jay, we were in like high school, early high school. Jay was probably like six or
Yeah.
seven. He was young, and for whatever reason, we decided to put him in the closet, and it was pitch black in there. We
Which
controlled the
one?
lights in there, in that room.
The
The
long
one,
one?
yeah. And we put him in there, and we like pushed the door closed, and he started screaming. Yeah, he was screaming.
Did you cause Jay some damage from that? Because
He said he remembered it, but I told him that I felt so bad about it. As like I think, not to throw Mike under the bus, but I think it was Mike. He was kind of holding the door. I don't think he was trying to be mean at all. We were
yeah,
just dumb little high schoolers. Like, and I was like, yeah, Mike, stop. And he stopped and let Jay out, and Jay was crying, and I felt bad that like I probably embarrassed him, probably mortified him. Like, I didn't mean to make him cry like that. I felt terrible about it.
it happens.
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, oddly, speaking of Michael Merrill, I was actually curious if you remembered the Great Pelican incident.
No, I don't. I don't. I have vague memories of this, but I remember just being at the little lake by your house, and there was a big pelican there. I don't remember anything else.
All right, so good. We got a story. We got a great story to tell. It's an odd one. Let's go with that. It's an odd story. So it was probably, I want to say it was eighth grade, and Michael Merrill and I were like hanging out at my house because it was our birthday. And if you've ever been to my parents' neighborhood, it is just a maze, and it's perfect for mischief and running around as a teenager, and just yeah. So we're doing a late night stroll at 8 o'clock or something like that. I just remember it being somewhat dark, and we're just strolling around the neighborhood, and this giant bird swoops down over us. And you weren't there at that point. I will say that you had not shown up yet. You were either finishing something up or you were finishing something up. So you weren't there yet. So Michael and I are just walking, and this huge bird swoops over us, and we're like, "Oh, that was weird. What was that thing?" And we just keep walking, and we hear these like large wings flapping, and this like giant, like I remember thinking it was like like clogs, like wooden clogs is what it sounded like.
Oh wow, yeah,
And
yeah.
it was its beak. It was its beak. Yeah, just kind of like opening and shutting. Just so we had no idea where this thing was, and we were just kind of like looking around at one point. So, and this is by the pond that you were referring to because that's where the whole incident happened. And out of nowhere, we hear "Wah!" and we look back and we see this giant pelican on top of a power pole.
Oh yeah, remember
It
this?
had bit into the breaker or whatever that thing is up
Yes, I
there.
do remember
It
this.
was just like, "Ugh!" And so Michael and I are seeing this giant bird just convulsing, and we're like, what do we do? And then all of a sudden, it just starts to drop, and I'm like, oh, it's flying. We got away. And it just hits the ground, and both of us are just like, oh shit, what do we do? You know, it's so we were just blown away, and we didn't like we were like, do we go near it? So like we didn't know if it'd be alive or not, so we kind of like walked up next to the fence that was blocked. Like, if you remember, that pond like technically was shared by two or three neighborhoods, and so there was a fence that we technically could have just like walked a little bit alongside of and gotten to the other side based off the pond, but we were like, we're not going near that thing right now. And it wasn't until we saw the smoke coming off of it that we were like, oh yeah, that thing's dead. That thing's deader than a doornail. So we are just like, I can't believe that, eighth grade boys were like, oh my God, freaking out about it. And so I remember you getting there. And Michael and I are like, oh my God, dude, you're not going to believe what happened. You're not going to believe it. And you're like, okay, tell me. And so we start telling the story, and I can tell you're just like, just you're that night you're just kind of like, yeah. What's going on? What's going on? And finally we get to the part where we're saying that we look up and we see this giant pelican getting electrocuted, and you're just like, where is it? And you're already walking out the door. You're already walking out the door. And so we take you to it, and you're the first one to be like, yeah, let's get on the other side of the fence. And we're like, look, like we just were observing it is really what it came down to. But it blew. Here's my question: why is there a pelican in Tulsa?
That's a good question. I was thinking that as you were telling that, I'm like,
Of all the birds,
yeah. I don't know.
it would have to have gotten here from like Texas, would be my guess.
Yeah,
I mean, do
but
pelicans live in Texas?
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So
I
like,
mean,
it would
especially in
have,
Houston, for sure.
yeah.
But uh, they don't go north for the winter or for to
I don't know,
migrate,
man.
right?
I mean, lately in Oklahoma City, I've been seeing seagulls. Yeah,
Really?
yeah, we get every once in a while we have like a flock of sea. Of course, I'm the weird guy that's always like looking up at birds and stuff. So like I'm a science teacher, but yeah, we definitely have seagulls floating around OKC. But a pelican
Yeah, that's
and in South Tulsa.
right. Like, and his the fresh water that he decided to go like dwell at was in your neighborhood.
To this day, it's one of those things where I can't believe I saw it. And I'm sure Michael's the same way. If you're listening, Mike, I'm sure you still feel the same way. We're like, how did we experience that? It's almost like, was that a sign? Like, it's one of those things where it sticks with you. It sticks with you.
It does, and that reminds me when you say is that a sign. There's very few moments in my life where something bizarre like that will happen, where I go like that means something.
Hmm.
Like the Pelican in Oklahoma. You're like that means something. Yeah, I remember when Jordan and I first got engaged. My wife and I, the night we got engaged, where she stayed at my parents' house. I was living at my parents' house at the time. So we were just, we just got engaged. So we were like snuggling and it was probably like, I don't know, 12:31 and massive earthquake. Oklahoma doesn't really get earthquakes a lot. I mean, they do, but you don't feel them, right? Massive earthquake. Like everyone was talking about it the next day. But I remember it shaking and I woke up and I thought, that doesn't feel promising. That doesn't feel like a good sign here. Like I feel like God just said like you're just gonna screw up that woman's life.
Like, this is your final warning.
Yeah, right. You'll never see a rainbow
Walk
again.
away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that every once in a while. And if you know me, every once in a while I'm like,
Yeah, you see the spiritual on things for sure.
yeah, it's one of my gifts. One of my gifts, man. What other crazy things do you remember? Like, what is some? I'm always curious. Like, what is your favorite story from my parents' house that just because it really like oddly enough, you bringing up the upstairs of my parents' house, like whenever we hang out, like that's where we are mentally in my mind is just still hanging out there.
Here's the thing about your parents' house. Again, like I mentioned, if you watch that '70s show, you'll know that they have the basement, and the parents didn't really go down the basement that often in that show. So it was kind of like their little haven just to like hang out, right? That's really what it was for us. We would just hang out there, like we had girlfriends, they would come over and we all watch movies, or just the dudes, we'd all get together and like watch movies, hang out, play games. Like we did just kind of hang out there. Some of the weirder things, I do remember one time getting inspired to just start putting on all of your mom's dresses.
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know why. I was just like, hey, I'm going to go put on your mom's dresses.
Because JD McFarlane was with us.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Because I remember JD looking at me like, does your friend normally do this? And I was like, no, but I'm also not surprised. So
there's a mechanism in my head that goes like, this will be funny. Let's do this. This would be funny. It's never, and honest to God, like 9 times out of 10, it really never is funny.
Yeah. But it was great at the time. No, that moment though was very funny because my mom was in tears.
Yeah. Yeah, she was giving me more dresses. She's like, here's the blouse with like flowers. I'm like, yes.
She's like, it's giving. She was loving it. No, and the best part, it was those 80s into early 90s shoulder pads. Businesswoman, I'm a career woman.
It's definitely like Kevin's mom from Home Alone look.
And it was the fact that like you would just lean into it when you like.
Yeah.
That's one thing that made you so fun to hang out with because you would be like, this will be funny, and it would be funny to us in that moment. And so JD, of course, was like, "What do we do?" And I was like, "Well, I'll put on a dress too." And so we all did it. All these
JD,
boys.
by the way, was the quarterback. I mean, super nice guy, but he was the quarterback of Metro. Like, think jock. Again, really nice guy. He's not like the typical jock, but he was a jock for sure. And I don't think that my weird humor was translating in this moment. It's like, why are we putting on your mom's dresses? Like, this, no.
But he leaned into it. He had a blast. Like that was that is a good memory. I'm so glad you brought that back up.
I think if I recall correctly, your mom even was like, you want some lipstick? I was like, yes, I do. I do want some lipstick.
Yes.
And then afterwards, when we were done with the dresses, I took the lipstick and drew a smiley face on my chest.
I do remember too, we took pictures and there were a lot of parents that were like, don't take pictures, like we don't want evidence of this.
You know, what's crazy about getting older is I still do stuff like that. Not stuff like that, but I still have that. I still have that thing in my head where I'm like, this will be very stupid, but I will get some joy out of this.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older, I find myself at the end of every day, especially when we hang out with people, I'll review like, okay, Will, were you just a little too weird today? I swear I do this every day, and I can't help it. I'm like, I think I might have been too much today. And as I've gotten older, like we hung out with some friends this weekend. We got home. I'm like, okay, did I talk too much? Was I maybe a little too weird? Did I let other people have conversation time? Like, I go over that whole thing. Like, I didn't do anything too stupid to like scare away my friends and like ruin the night for my wife. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Will just isn't as fun anymore because he's trying not to just embarrass the family. I'm a dad now.
I beg to differ because I think you're just as fun. Because honestly, it's literally the same vibe, it's same energy when we finally all get together. It's
That's true. That is true.
and you even and when we've done our trips is definitely when you're like, I'm gonna do something crazy. I think speaking of these like little witty things you do, I think one of my favorites is when we went to New York, and it was when we were in Hoboken
Yeah.
and staying in that little apartment, and JC was just out. He just passed out. And you were like, look at this. He didn't even plug his phone in. He doesn't even know he forgot his phone. And you decide, oh, check this out. And because you knew his password and you knew exactly where to go in his phone. And you started going to the autocorrect or like the autofill.
I would change word like filler words, like because I was crying laughing, seeing him like get frustrated. It'd be like every time he wrote "Hey," it would like autocorrect to like "stinky doo doo muffins." He'd be like, "Why does it keep autocorrecting the stinky doo doo muffins?"
Because of course he's just like, well, I'm just gonna delete the whole and try again. There was a part of me that was convinced you were going to switch him to an Android user by the end of the year after that. Like, he was so done. Like, every single time we got to see him, he was just like, it's just another autofill, and I knew exactly what's going on. I'm just over here.
It's moments like that that bring me so much joy.
Yeah, because we could still mess with each other and still get a laugh out of it.
When we were in Hoboken, that same trip that you were talking about, where we were doing funny things, do you remember? I really had this great idea to put butter in JC's pants when he fell asleep.
Because you had heard that comedian do it.
Yeah,
Did you do it though? I can't remember.
we did do it, but didn't play out as well because I mean, I don't think he noticed it. Um, all was business as usual that next morning.
I'm just a sweaty guy. I'm just a sweaty guy.
We're like, notice anything funny? He's like, no, it's a beautiful day.
Yeah, I do remember because you and I both were like, wait, didn't you put butter in his
I was like,
pants?
yeah, I did. I think I put like at least a tablespoon.
To those who are wondering what happens, to the duties wondering if this even makes it. So butter, then the butter melts, and then you're left with this puddle of liquid. You don't know what it is. It's for adults only. This is a prank for adults only? But yeah, you're left wondering what happened.
Right. So the comedian, his name is Brooks Wheelan, and he does this great bit about his friends when he passed out after drinking too much. They put a whole, a whole. I mean, we granted this is where we went wrong. They put a whole stick of butter in his pants, and when he woke up, he thought he had contracted it like a rare disease. Right.
It's completely covering. Like, what is this venereal disease? It just is covering my entire lower section.
It's a great bit. And so I was like, we got to do this. And I do think I only put just a little bit in there, but like
Yeah.
he woke up and it was just like, all right, great. And what should we do, guys? And I'm like, man, come on. That's a perfect example of my brain going like, I should definitely do this. This will be very funny.
Yeah. And yes, they are. Well, at least this friend thinks they're funny. So, ooh, okay. So one thing I wanted to talk about. Do you remember the Star Wars Holiday Special? The
Hmm?
VHS. This may be a JC and I conversation, but I feel like you were a part of it. The Star Wars Holiday Special.
Okay, so yes, JC is he's the one who introduced me to the holiday special. I, I watched. Here's the deal. I'm not a big sci-fi guy. I think
Yeah.
you know this about me.
Yes.
You and JC really bonded over all things like Zelda and sci-fi and like Dragon Ball Z, and that wasn't really my thing. But he did show me the holiday special from Star Wars, and it's how would you describe it?
Painful.
There's no dialogue because they don't talk.
No, we just never could make it that far. But for those who have no desire to watch this, let me explain the first 15-ish, 20 minutes. But also, if you do want to watch this, it is available on the internet. So please maybe mute or fast forward because I'm about to spoil. So it starts off like basically on Chewie's home planet, and you're introduced to Chewie's family, but they the whole time are speaking in their own language. And so it's literally 15 to 20 minutes of just
It's
and
literally like them just. It's like you're watching a sitcom of Wookiees that you don't understand. It's
yeah,
weird.
it's literally like watching a foreign like a foreign sitcom that you can't change, you can't put on subtitles, and you can't turn on yeah, it was just insane. And so there's a grandpa, there's a mom, there's another family member, maybe an uncle or something, and then there's a kid. Now the kid goes off at one point, and it has this little like table in front of him, and he like puts this little disc thing in, and all of a sudden this hologram pops up, and it's like this little circus and everything. And the whole time you're sitting there like, what in the world? Like, we really, I don't know if you can legally show it, but like if you could get a picture of how psychedelic and 80s and weird and everything this is, it just was too much. And usually about that point is when we were all like, we're done.
Here's the thing that here's how I saw it was it's Star Wars. It is Star Wars without the adventure. It's all the weird stuff. It's all like the alien stuff. They thought like there's a market for people who want to see Star Wars without the fun lasers and adventure and like bad guys and just like the weird characters doing weird stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Side stories, backstories, and all of that. Yeah. Now, we also have to remember this was just post Mark Hamill's motorcycle accident leading to complete reconstructive surgery that made him. JC used to be so brutal about describing Mark Hamill's face, but basically the
Was
guy,
he in? Was he in it?
yeah, the whole cast was in it. Everybody was in it.
So was he like? Was he?
It was bad. Like
Oh, really?
it's in, and it's well known on the because he had plastic surgery, so he. I don't want to make fun of him because he can't help it,
No,
He
no,
just,
no, no, for sure. Yeah.
but it's very like stretch, plasticky, like fresh plastic surgery look. And JC would just be like, he looks like what did he say? Like he honestly looked like he kind of looked like a drag queen.
Well, now yeah, I definitely did not get that far.
Yeah, no, because we literally would start shutting it off at a certain point because we couldn't handle it. Well, weirdly enough, I'm sitting here. So, my friends and I were hanging out, and we were like, "Hey, let's watch Skeleton Crew while we're chilling because we haven't watched
Oh
this
yeah,
yet."
yeah.
So it's like first or second episode, the circus table, the hologram table popped back up. So have you watched it?
No, I was seeing if I can pull it up. But keep talking. I am listening to you.
Okay, so literally, there's these little kids playing at this table, and like the circus from the holiday special is sitting there playing. I scream out loud. I'm like, oh my god! My friends are like, what's going on with you? And I literally paused the whole thing, and I'm like, it's from the Star Wars holiday special. And I thought that they were Star Wars fans, thinking they probably had seen it. And one of them was like, one of them's a little bit older than us. So I was like, yeah, that would have been like a time you would have been able to watch it. No, they hadn't seen it. So I then have to go show them and everything. And it just made me laugh so hard thinking about, we try to suffer. We put ourselves through this in a sober state where there was no alcohol or anything. We did
But
it.
there's also no cell phones and like
Yes.
the distraction factor at our age, at our generation is way different than now.
Yeah.
I mean, that seemed like a good thing to do on a weekend.
Yeah, the bar was pretty low for what would entertain us. But I just could not believe they brought the Star Wars holiday special back in their newest show.
That's pretty wild. Well, Jordan, I appreciate, again, like I said, JC not absence is our gain today because it's
Yeah.
always good to talk to you. Even though we both live in Oklahoma, we're busy parents and we don't get to talk as much as I'd like. So
Yeah. I'm glad that we were able to make this happen because,
yeah, it's glad. Yeah, you're definitely the man on call when JC's gone.
oh, I'm honored. I'm honored. I definitely feel I can't fill his shoes, but I fill some shoes that need filled. So,
Yeah, no, you did. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for joining, and remember, like and subscribe if you like this. If not, then I don't know what to tell you. You should probably stop listening.
yeah, why are you still listening if you don't like it? I think it's hilarious.
Hey, if you don't like this Star Wars Holiday Christmas special, you'll love it.
Instant classic. You need to watch it from start to finish, officially, to truly appreciate it.
Good twist at the end. Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, duties, have yourself a great week. Jordan, thanks again.
Thank you.
And until next time, bye.
Sign.